I often get asked the question, is my property an auction property? And well, the simple answer is yes. Every property is an auction property. And that's because auction is simply a sales strategy that we use to put our sellers in the best position to achieve the highest price in the market within the shortest amount of time. Understanding why we auction property certainly helps answer this question as well. There are many reasons why auction is the best way to sell real estate. I think the first reason is that it creates urgency. You see, urgency is placed on a buyer to make a decision by a set date, the auction date. Urgency is the key because the more urgent the buyer, the more likely they are to pay more money. The deadline forces buyers to act sooner as they risk missing out on the property if they don't. And it's this fear of missing out that actually gives you leverage as the seller in a negotiation prior to auction or on the day. The sale date also ensures you sell within a short period of time. You see, unlike traditional price or no price campaigns that have no set date and often drag on for a lengthy period, auction gives you a clear picture as to when you'll be sold. And this is important as days on market and price are directly correlated. You see, the longer a home sits on the market, the less it sells for. So a short time frame is key to making sure that we get you the very best price. Secondly, auction removes price as a barrier. You see, the only barrier that actually stands between a seller and a buyer, and thus a successful sale, is price. If a seller could simply list their price and a buyer would walk in and pay it, why would you employ a real estate agent and pay them tens of thousands of dollars simply for the privilege of that transaction? In a traditional campaign, the agent is there to help the seller in the negotiation. But this logic is actually quite flawed, as the negotiation has already begun in favor of the buyer, as the negotiation, as we know, is always a negotiation downwards from the list price. Understanding how to negotiate with buyers is critical, as this is one factor that can have a huge impact on your ultimate sale price. So who's the best negotiator for you as a seller? And I can tell you, the answer is not your agent. The answer is the second buyer. You see, an agent's ability to negotiate with a buyer one-on-one pales in comparison to having two or more buyers fighting for it. So the key to maximizing the sale price is actually creating competition. And that's exactly what auctions are all about. That's what they're designed to do. You see, the auction process creates a competitive environment where buyers bid against one another to buy your home. And this creates a negotiation upwards in terms of price where there is no ceiling on what it is that you can achieve. You see, it's competition that will push a buyer to pay their absolute most and often more than they ever thought they would actually pay. But this level of competition can only be created through auction because of the transparency that it provides. While we can create competition by simply removing the price and selling via a for sale, price by negotiation, or an expressions of interest campaign, which we're seeing all the time, the negotiations here that we find ourselves in are what we call a multiple offer scenario. Now, these scenarios provide no transparency to the buyers involved. And although they know that they're in competition, they don't know what the other offers are, and they don't know where their offer stands in relation to them. So this puts the buyer at risk of losing the property over a few $1,000s, or even worse in their eyes, overpaying by tens of thousands of dollars. And it's this fear of overpaying that holds buyers back in the negotiation and stops them from pushing to their true limits. And had they known that they were only a few $1,000s short, well, maybe they would have pushed a little bit higher just to secure the purchase. You see, an open and transparent negotiation where buyers trust the process and they get unlimited opportunities to be able to make offers is what's needed to push them to their true limits. A question I often get asked is, well, what if we had one buyer who was willing to pay a lot more than the next highest offer? If that were at auction, they would only need to pay slightly more than the next buyer, and wouldn't we be leaving money on the table? It's a great question, and the short answer is yes. In that scenario, a negotiation on auction day might not be the best option for you as the seller. But the great thing about auction is that you get 3 opportunities to be able to sell the home: before auction, on the day, and after. You see, if during the campaign we met a buyer that was willing to pay far in excess of any other buyer within the marketplace, you as the seller can accept the offer and sell prior to auction. The deadline of auction and the fear of competing on the day will act as leverage and competition when negotiating with that buyer. So we aren't negotiating one-on-one. This will help us get a further increase in terms of price. And I look at an auction campaign like a no-price marketing campaign with an option to go to auction. You see, if we have a unicorn buyer that's willing to pay more than any other buyer, we can sell it to them. We can sell it to them prior. If, on the other hand, we find ourselves in a position where all of the buyers are seeing interest around the same price point, well then this is when we would go to auction and we would let that competitive environment drive the price up to the premium. You don't know which scenario you're going to find yourself in until you actually go to the market. So that's where auction gives you the safety and the flexibility of having both options. It really is the best of both worlds. And what happens if we don't sell at auction? Well, you haven't really lost anything. In fact, if anything, you've gained valuable market feedback, which will help us set a competitive price after auction so that we can ensure that we get sold straight after. Sellers often fear that selling at auction is stressful. However, the opposite is true. Auction gives you a structured 3-stage selling plan, like we just discussed, and it also significantly reduces the risks to you as a seller. Let me explain. In a traditional priced or no price campaign, buyers make offers subject to their terms. These contracts are often subject to a cooling off period, a building and pest inspection, often a lengthy finance clause, a bank valuation, and maybe any other clauses that they may have included on their offer. But all of these clauses, you've got to remember, are designed to protect the buyer, and they actually allow them to walk away or renegotiate the price at any point in time. Once under contract, this is often an even more stressful period than the sales campaign for our sellers, because if a buyer changes their mind or asks for money off, you risk losing either a lot of money or you risk losing the buyer altogether and having to begin the sales campaign all over again. But auction eliminates all of these risks and gives you as a seller complete control over the process. You see, buyers make offers on an unconditional basis. All their due diligence is done prior to making an offer. So when you accept an offer, you have the confidence in knowing it's an immediate exchange. The buyer cannot pull out or renegotiate the price. As your real estate agent professional, it's our job to reduce your risk and to ensure you control over the sale of your property, as opposed to handing all control over to the buyer, given oftentimes is one of the largest assets that you'll own. And as a real estate agent, we don't get paid until we sell your home for a price that you're happy with. And the more we sell it for, well, the more we get paid. So we would never recommend anything that wouldn't put both of us in a position to be able to achieve the very best outcome. I am absolutely convinced auction is the best way to sell real estate. It's the only process that has a clear, structured plan to get you sold. It's transparent and it provides the best negotiation for you as a seller to be able to achieve the very best price in the marketplace. It reduces your risk, it reduces your days on market, and it gives you control over the outcome. I encourage you to look at our successes and see for yourself why auction will benefit you. And if you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to reach out and get in contact with us. We look forward to meeting you soon.